Hey guys, I'm Good Guy Griffo, and welcome to my 6th and final episode of Know Your Role. This episode will cover the last remaining role, Flex DPS, and like all episodes I will discuss its role within a team, go over the character types, and then go over each individual character. But if you're new to the series, I highly recommend that you at least go back and watch episode 1, as it's a more detailed introduction to the series. But before we start, if you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe? It doesn't cost you anything and it helps my channel grow. Anyway, let's get right into the video. Your role as Flex DPS is to swap and to fulfill a requirement that your team needs. You need to be able to swap up what heroes you're playing to either help cover your team's weaknesses or exploit the enemies. Now what does this mean? Like what characters should I play when? And we'll cover every character individually later on, but let's just go over an example. The enemy team are all close range characters and are running over your team with a well played death ball. You should probably look to play a character that can keep their distance and deal a lot of AoE damage. And the best fit for that requirement is Pharah. Or, in this scenario, you find that your team cannot deal with a Hammond, so you need more CC. Well, you can either go Sombra or Mei to keep them perma-CC'd. The Flex DPS player's job is to fill the gaps and assist your team in winning. So, let's move on to the character types that the Flex DPS will need to know how to play. I can classify 3 main subcategories for the Flex DPS hero pool. These categories are Duelists, Long Range Artillery, and Area Denial. And you can generally put each character into 1 or even 1.5 categories, depending on their kit. But let's just do a short summary of each category before I go into detail about the characters within each category. Duelists are the characters with insane mobility and the ability to kill or clean up kills, very effectively. They are best used when your team is finding it hard to secure kills, but are heavily dependent on you being able to secure those kills. Long Range Artillery are the characters that are suited to shoot a lot of projectiles from distance. They can often spam down a line of sight and lightly zone off the area, or can hit accurate shots for lots of damage. Finally, we have our Area Deniers, and there are actually 2 different types of Area Deniers, so I sort of lied and there are instead 4 different types of characters. For Area Deniers, we have Spam characters and Hard CC characters. The Spam Area Deniers focus on putting a lot of damage into an area or choke point, and make it very difficult to advance through the route that they are spamming. They often also feature some sort of defensive deployable to help them gain an advantage if you try and kill them. The CC Area Deniers use the threat of CC and team focus to keep enemies at a distance, and if an enemy gets close enough, they will not be allowed to play the game. However, they generally have low damage but a massive teamfight ult. Okay, that's all the categories explained, so let's go over character by character, starting with the Duelist category. In the Duelist category we have 3 characters. The first character is Doomfist. Every one of Doomfist's abilities gives him some form of movement, which allows him to dive his targets from almost anywhere on the map, assuming the Doom knows how to utilise his kit. And once Doom has reached the target, he has a couple of options, which either involve one-shotting them or chaining his abilities, keeping his target CC'd. Doom is great if you need massive bursts of damage as well as some CC, but seriously lack any threat outside of close range. Next in the Duelists is Genji. Genji is great at pulling off final blows and lurking in teamfights. With his ability to reset his dash on kill, he has a way to both engage and disengage. His Reflect grants him some survivability and a lot of playmaking potential, and his ult can come up massive given your team supports you. Finally, in Duelists we have Echo. If Echo wants to get somewhere on the map, she gets there. And since her movement ability does not double as a damaging ability, she can easily get there and use it without fear of not having it when she finds an enemy. She has the most damage and range out of all the Duelists, but however, she is also the squishiest with no defensive ability to save her if she misplays. Echo is great at finishing low HP enemies with her focusing beam and has crazy bursts with her stickies. And that's not even mentioning her pure flexibility of her ultimate, which just adds more potential for Flex DPS players to fill what the team needs by taking a tank or a support. Okay, that's all for Duelists. Let's move on to Long Range Artillery, and there are only 2 characters that fall under this category. The first character is Hanzo. Hanzo is the most mobile sniper in the game, but is also the only non-hit scan sniper in the game, so he finds it harder to hit the shots than the other ones do. But if left alone, he will non-stop keep spamming arrows into your team, and whether they be aimed or just spammed, an arrow will find ahead of you or your ally. The other character in this category is Pharah, and to be honest, she could have also gone in spam, but I feel like she's way more focused on where her shots go, and she likes to keep her distance, so that's why she's here. But Pharah is always above your team, and always has an angle to be hitting rockets in the middle of your team. She can be really annoying to deal with most characters just don't have enough effective range to deal with her. But that's all we have for our long range artillery characters, so let's move on to area deniers, starting with the spam characters. There are 3 spam characters and all of them have some form of deployable. The first character is Junkrat. Junkrat has the most potent spam and is the best character to make a hallway or choke point a lethal zone. He also has his steel trap that he can place on his flanks or in between him and the enemy to keep him safe and keep people still, so he can hit them with a volley of shots. However, hitting his shots at anything out of close range is almost impossible to do reliably, so when out of choke points in close range, his value drops off massively. Next up for spam characters is Torbjorn. Torbjorn's probably the weakest choke point pressure out of the 3, as his shots can only hit one enemy at a time and have the lowest damage per hit. But where his strengths lie is within his deployable turret. Placing this bad boy down will instantly create more pressure and keep most squishies away, and against tanks, over time its damage can really add up. Torb is by far the hardest to kill out of the spam characters, and his turret provides support to his team, which is why we see him as the preferred spam area denier by far. Finally, we have Symmetra. She is a mix between Torb and Junkrat with the slow moving projectiles that explode and the deployable turrets to zone appeal for your team. However, she does neither job better, and as such, going Torb for the peeling or Junkrat for the choke points just will end up being better results. Symmetra in her current state is just a teleporter with annoying turrets and some nice spam. Now, let's move on to the area deniers that utilize CC over spam. These characters punish bad position and have some of the best ults in the game to win teamfights. The first character that comes to mind is Mei. I'm sure you guys have all played against a Mei that will wall off your tanks when they walk forward and then the team will just kill them. Mei punishes low mobility teams that split up or decide to work through choke points. Then, if the wall wasn't successful or they have mobility, we have Mei's ability to freeze a target. This is crippling to anyone and will keep them locked down for a really long time. Against characters like Hammond and Diva, there is nothing they can do but just keep their distance. And that's not even talking about her ult, which can zone off a massive area. The other CC character is Sombra, and while Sombra is a bit of a stretch to put her in here, but she doesn't really belong in the duel list either, so here she is. But Sombra is very similar to Mei, in the fact that she will punish poor positioning. If a tank wants to walk too far forward, relying on their shields or abilities, a single hack from Sombra will leave them defenseless. But her ult is easily the best in the game by far. The ability to prevent an entire team from utilizing any of their abilities, even for a short time, allows you to land important abilities and ults that will almost lead to a one fight. Okay, that's all the characters, so let's just do a swift summary for everyone. Doomfist, high mobility, chain to C and dueling. Genji, high mobility, engage and disengage, following off low HP or secluded targets. Echo, insane mobility, high damage, great burst and follow up, flexible ult. Hanzo, consistent long range damage, harder sniper to catch, projectiles are hard to hit. Pharah, okay spam, great at getting angles so you can shoot squishies and take out targets. Junkrat, best spam in the game, makes hallways and choke points lethal to anyone. Torbjorn, great support and okay spam for choke points. Over long run, lots of damage. Symmetra, okay spam, used only for the teleporter but generally lackluster. Mei, walls off your team and keeps you frozen. Sombra, hacks your tanks and ults your team. Okay, now that we've gone over what each character does, how do we use this information to win more of your games? First, you need to identify what your team needs to win fights. This will often be a simple counter to what is just allowing them to win fights. If a Hammond is going to town on your team, then your team will require you to play a CC area denier, shut him down. Or if your team can't get through the other team's shield, you should play a character that can get around them. This is all game knowledge and you will only learn this by playing the game and trying different picks against different compositions, and just remembering you are trying to counter what the team is doing to allow them to win. And I wish you luck at mastering the Flex DPS role and massive hero pool that comes along with it. If you are new or are struggling to understand how to play the characters, I suggest you pick just one character from each of the subcategories and work on learning them. Just take small steps and eventually you'll learn them all. But this does bring an end to the final episode of Know Your Role, so I just wanted to say thank you guys for sticking around and watching the series, or just even if you watch this video, thanks. But if you do want to see more guides and content like this, why not subscribe? Until next, see you then.
My phone lights up, but it's never you. I can't help but feel so lonely.